Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, please do check out the description section below, where I often put more information about whatever it is I'm talking about in the video. If I had to change your mind, change your heart, if I forgot to mention something, it'll be down in that description. There's also some links as well, so check it out. And this is the Polk Audio Reserve R900 height module speaker. First, I'm just going to go over the specs briefly. The tweeter is a 0.75 inch or 3/4 inch ring radiator tweeter, and the mid-range, mid-bass driver is a 4-inch turbine cone. The overall frequency response is from 50 Hertz to 50 kilohertz, and the frequency response with -3 decibel limits is from 70 Hertz to 32 kilohertz. So this little speaker has a pretty good range overall. The recommended amplifier power is 45 to 100 watts. Most of these speakers don't seem to be recommended for very high power, so just keep that in mind. And when I say these speakers, I mean these like height modules. The amplifier output compatibility is 8 ohms / 6 ohms / 4 ohms. The minimum impedance is rated at 4.2 ohms. So I'm guessing this is probably an 8 ohm speaker, but they're just rating it in that at some point, and it hit 4.2 ohms on the low. Most 8 ohm speakers at some frequency point are going to just dip, hit the 4 ohm or maybe 6 ohm, whatever it is, and go back to 8 ohms. The crossover frequency is 2.1 kilohertz. So the crossover frequency is 2.1 kilohertz, and the product weighs 6.6 pounds. So let's take a look. So at 2.1 kilohertz. So at 2.1 kilohertz, it's going to split from the tweeter to the woofer. So I'm going to give you a nice close-up view. It's pretty much just plain white all around, and on the back there's the binding posts, and they spin pretty well. Oh, I wasn't spinning it. There we go. Binding posts spin pretty well. You can see them spinning it. Whoop, spun it right off. But yeah, they spin really well. And let's get that back on. Yep. The binding posts on this are really nice. The quality of it is really good. And you can see this is the grill. It's a grayish color that comes with the white, and just goes on with a magnet like that. So this is a Atmos speaker. This is a height speaker, and you just put it on top of your other speakers. Just measure the top of your speakers, because this particular height speaker is kind of long. It's a lot longer than many of the other Atmos speakers that sit on top of other speakers. So just keep that in mind. It also has a switch on the back over here, which you could flip the switch whether you're mounting this on the wall or on top of the speakers. If you're going to mount this on the wall, it has the 2 slots, so you'd have to put 2 screws, preferably into a stud. Make sure you mount it, put the screws right into a stud, use a stud sensor, and knock as well to confirm that you're hitting the stud. And there's also one of those screw-in thread things for like an actual mount where you could screw the speaker to it. So it's kind of nice. It did come with a template. I don't have the template next to me, but there's a template that they made, so you could just put the template on the wall and trace out the holes. So that's it for the mounting part. So I was thinking about another way to potentially use this speaker, and I realized that, of course, you can place it like this on top of your speakers. Right? So you place it like this, and here's your tweeter, and here's your woofer, and then this is supposed to kind of fire towards the ceiling, and it's supposed to bounce back at you. And of course, that is kind of, I find that most of them don't really work, how they're supposed to work, but they definitely add some type of like a spaciousness. So You know, you can definitely place it like this. That's how it's made. And then also because of, you know, the hooks on the back, you know, this could be placed, not the hooks, the mounting holes on the back. And it does have the other, the screw for like a mount. So, you know, of course, you know, the next way is that this can be placed on a wall. So you would mount it like this, but you would mount it up high. So it would have to be up high and pointing down. Now the last way that I realize this can be used, even though it's kind of not labeled for it, because over here is your post, the binding post. So if you put a few pieces of felt, like I have these felt pieces stuck to it, they're very cheap. You can pick them up for a few dollars. So put a few pieces of felt over here, and now just put it down, and you've got yourself, you know, a speaker that's standing up, and it's not like it's going to tip over. I'm pushing it. You can see it's pretty stable overall. So you know it's not going anywhere. So really what you could do is you could take this like this even and put this on top of a speaker, and then, you know, the sound is going to fire upwards. So essentially it's just going to make, you know, more height. It's going to add on to the top of, a speaker and just make the overall sound stage sound much larger. Or you could put this on top of a bookshelf, maybe like 6 feet up on the very top of it, or put it actually on a shelf like this. It does have a sticker over here that says Polk, so that's upside down. But, you know, to be honest, this speaker does have a lot of flexibility. So it's not just like if you purchase this, you're stuck with it, you know, sitting like this on top of your speakers, and that's it. Between this, the wall mount, and then if you did want to, you know, place it like this. I mean, you could even use this as like, I hate to say it, like a pair of speakers, you know, to the main, you know, almost like satellites. You could use these as like two, like a front, left, and right, and just wire a subwoofer in line, or use the crossover, you know, built into your receiver or amp. But you know, the speaker is very flexible. That's the point. So just wanted to point that out. As far as the sound quality, it's great. It sounds like the rest of the Reserve series. The Reserve series is a really nice sounding tweeter, and the bass on this little thing is actually really good. I was playing this, and I took the equalizer and I turned up the equalizer on the bass just to see if I could make it not sound as nice, but it seemed to accept the EQ while keeping the sound quality, you know, from becoming like muddy or distorted sounding. And I turned up like the, what was it, the 40 hertz and the 63 or 65 hertz. I moved those up like 6 decibels each. And I mean, you know, again, the speaker just sounds great. If you're undecided about having a speaker like this, an Atmos speaker on top of another speaker, you could start off with this in your home and listen to it and see if you feel like it's doing something, or if it's doing what you want it to do, or, you know, if you feel like you're happy with it. Because to be honest, I haven't listened to any of these Atmos speakers that go on top of another speaker and been like, you know, I feel like the sound is coming from the ceiling, because I just don't. On occasion, it might sound like it's somewhere, but usually what I'm hearing is just some like extra like height. Like the front speakers with these sitting on top of them just sound taller. The sound just sounds more spacious. So more so like the sound is going this way and up. Not like it's coming down from the ceiling. That I really don't hear. But it does sound more spacious in a upward manner. So it's more so like the front sound stage has more of like a wall of sound, instead of more so the sound coming this way, okay? What is great about it is that you can mount it, and when you do mount it like this, it would be hanging on your wall like that. So you could have this, you know, all the way up high, Am I in camera view? No, probably not. So you could have this up high with the sound coming down towards you, which in my opinion, I have front heights mounted on the wall in the other room, which has the 7.1.2 with front heights. So this is really a great option because, again, you could test it out in your house to see how it sounds. And you could also move it, and if you want to angle it a little, you could put something under here, to prop it up a little bit, maybe a few more pieces of felt to just maybe slightly change the angle or turn it inward, or whatever you have to do, as long as it sits on top of your speakers stably. With that said, if you don't like that, then you could mount them, and then you'd have a really good quality speaker as a front height or rear height or whatever you want to do with it. If you're just going to put this on top of something, well, again, the way, actually, I'm going to put this grill back on. You just put it on top of a speaker. So if you have these speakers in the front, you could put them on top of the front. If the speakers are in the rear, you could put them on top of the rear speakers. If they're on the sides of you, they surround left and surround right with a 7.1 with two heights, you could put them on top of those, so then the sound's going to be going this way. You could really play around with it to really kind of fine tune and decide what's going to work for you. You could put these on top of a bookshelf. I have some bookshelves that are 6 feet high. You put it on top, see what it sounds like. Move it around. Don't be afraid to experiment with it. If you put it on top of the bookshelves and you like it, well, that might be perfect. Or then from there you could say, well, I like the sound in the back, but I want it to be a little bit more pointed at me. Well, then just, go ahead and mount these things, and then the sound's going to be, mounted up high, and then the sound will be coming down right to you. So that's really the advantage of the speaker, and this speaker is the SVS Prime Pinnacle that I'm just using as an example. It's a very big speaker. The other thing that I do want to point out with this is I tested this out with The Empire Strikes Back, and I always use the scene or the track on the 4K Blu-ray called Yoda's Hut. And that's when Luke is speaking to Yoda, and I actually have it in a previous video. Luke is speaking to Yoda, and at times Obi-Wan's voice is heard. So Obi-Wan steps into the conversation twice, and he says to Yoda, "He will learn patience." Was I any different when you taught me? Those are his two lines. But anyway, it's a very simple scene to be able to test out the front heights. Okay, it's got to be set to front height. I don't think if it's in the rear it's going to work the same. But when these are on front heights, you could listen to it, and Obi-Wan's voice should be coming out of the two front heights, or these on top of speakers, and the center channel speakers. So it's pretty even as far as Obi-Wan's voice. His volume is in this speaker plus the center channel speaker, pretty much equally. If you're not hearing his voice equally, then you might want to just mount these up like this on the wall, and then you'll hear his voice. Or take the volume on the volume leveling and turn it up until you hear his voice sounding pretty even throughout the front three speakers. It's pretty important because, like Obi-Wan, he's supposed to be sounding like he's in spirit form, and I guess kind of more overhead and whatever, so it's pretty spacious. As far as the speaker manufacturers that this would blend well with, well, for one thing, Polk Audio, and especially the Reserve series. You could probably pair this pretty well with the Signature series as well. Maybe not so much the new monitor, what is the new monitor called? The XT60 and XT70 or something like that. But actually, it wouldn't even fit on top of it. It's just too small. That series actually has its own height channel speaker, which is just, I think it's just a single cone. This would pair really well, of course, with the Polk Reserve series and the Definitive technology towers, this would pair really well with those because the tweeter just blends well with it. Also, the SVS speakers that I have here, and the other SVS, the primes, the ultras, whatever it might be, it would blend really well. I'm going to say the paradigms. The paradigm, like I did the review of I think it's the 8000F or something like that is the model. I think that this speaker would blend in very well with those. So really, SVS, Definitive Technology, Polk Audio, Paradigm, those off of the top of my head, I believe, would pair the best. And I believe maybe you could potentially pair this into some of the monitor series. I don't know if any of the monitor audio speakers have a high channel or not. I'm just not aware of it. If they don't, then I think that this could potentially kind of blend in well with those too. And maybe potentially, again, if they don't have it, you could potentially put this into maybe Bowers and Wilkins, maybe Focal, other tweeters that are some type of a metal tweeter. Even though this metal tweeter I find to be pretty neutral overall. It's not, I don't find it to be bright, I don't find it to be too sharp, and I definitely don't find it to be too warm or anything like that. So I think it's kind of neutral. But either way, the way the tweeter sounds and the overall speaker, I think that those are potentially some companies that this could blend into your system pretty well. I know sometimes I get asked the question of, is it okay to mix and match? And I've been doing it my whole life. I mix and match as long as the tonal balance is kind of similar. You wouldn't, putting a speaker that's very bright with a speaker that's very warm, probably not so much. But as long as it's somewhere in that tonal range, you should be all right. So that's it for the Polk Reserve R900. I hope that you found this video somewhat helpful, and thank you for watching as always. I appreciate it. Have a great day.